Hello, America. Welcome to your Leo Nation, where we believe in and support the rule of law. I am the chief, the happily retired chief, Mark Garrett. And I was telling our guest and our friend before we went on the air, I'm like, I've got the flu going on so bad right now. I'm going from shivering to sweating. Hopefully it won't look too crazy for this episode, but do what I can. But I said we have our friend, the show here, former LA County Sheriff's Department Sheriff, Alex Villanueva. Sheriff, thank you again for joining us at Your Leo Nation.
You got it, Mark. Glad to be here.
And I know that you are sought after and time is short, so we're going to get right into this. I was actually, a friend of mine sent me this article, it was last week, and about a deputy, I think was 32 years old when this incident happened, Trevor Kirk, LA County Sheriff's deputy, and this use of force. And I'm going to give you the floor here, but in a nutshell, this went basically from no local prosecution to a federal prosecution. So with that said, I'm going to let you take it from there. You know this in and out, and I want to hear your aspect, and please give us details about this story. We have a little video to watch too in a second.
Well, this is from June of, I believe, 2023, and when the incident happened, deputies are responding to a robbery in progress call at the Winco supermarket. Important. And they provide the description of two suspects. As they get closer, they get updated that the suspects were fighting with store security, something to that effect. That is all the information they know. They get there, they see the two individuals matching the description in the parking lot. They detain the male. It's a male and a female. They detain the male, and after a lot of hemming and hawing and didn't want to get arrested or handcuffed, he finally got handcuffed. While they're handcuffing the male, the female is now with his cell phone out handcuffing them. And the deputy Alejandro tells Trevor Kirk, hey, that's the female suspect. So he goes to detain the female suspect, grabs what she has offered out there, the cell phone, in her hand, obviously grabbing the hand, and nope. You can't do that to me. You can't touch me. I know my rights type of routine. And so the fight is on from there. She doesn't want to get arrested. He ends up doing a takedown to the ground, pins her on the ground, and she's still thrashing around, doesn't want to give her hands up to be handcuffed. He puts out radio traffic to that effect. He ends up pepper spraying her twice. He missed the first time, but second time got her. Then she ended up getting handcuffed, and that was it. End of story. He called for a medical assistant, very important.
Mm-hmm.
So she was cleared medically in the field. They took her to a local hospital. Another deputy did, so she could be seen there. And she had obviously the effects of the OC spray. And I think a couple of abrasions for, ground, rolling on the ground. And that was it. From that, and from her video, and it was kind of edited, the sheriff ran with a story that, oh my God, I am disturbed by this, and I don't know what's going on here, but I'm going to notify the world, and we're going to have to sing Kumbaya with all of the different stakeholders, and he just rattled off all these people and how concerned he was.
Yeah, this is the current sheriff, Luna.
The current sheriff.
Know. Yeah.
And however, if you look at what the deputies were doing, they were detaining someone who was a robbery suspect. Mm-hmm. That's all the information they knew. Later on, they find there's video from the store where she spits upon the, I think, store security. Mm-hmm. So it was a typical, I'm just going to walk away, I'm not going to pay. And they try to detain them, and that's where the whole confrontation started. What basically you'll know is an Estes-type robbery. Mm-hmm. But that's after the fact. That's not stuff that the deputies knew at the time. And internally, the department looked at it from we understand, and there was no evidence of, obviously, a violation of law, and even conformed to department policy, because the force is a level 1 force. It's not a force, it's a level 2 or a 3, it's just a 1.
And by the way, Sheriff, if you could explain to the audience what level 1, level 2, level 3, just give examples of those different levels so we understand what we're all talking about.
Level 1 force is resisted handcuffing, pepper spray, takedown, those type of events. Mm-hmm. Those are level 1s. Level 2, when those type of force generate injuries beyond pepper spray decontamination. Level, for example, deputy dukes it out with someone in the field and obviously gives someone a black eye or something like, okay, that's a level 2 force. Next one up. Level 3 force is lethal force. The one that generates either deadly force, which results in someone dying, or serious bodily injury, broken bones, hospitalization, those type of things. That's level 3.
Perfect.
The federal government has never traditionally been involved in a level 1 type of force because they happen across the nation thousands of times. And federal involvement is only when there's evidence of a criminal conduct and someone ends up dying, for example, in a questionable shooting. That type of thing generates that. But this case, there wasn't any of that. This was a level 1 use of force.
So let me ask you this real quick. Just don't let me get you off track. Can you explain how this went from a non-DA prosecution and morphed into a federal prosecution? What were the mechanics there?
Well, the mechanics were that Sheriff Luna was trying to cozy up to Black Lives Matter in the AV, and an activist group called the Check.
By the way, the AV is the Antelope Valley.
Antelope Valley.
Everybody. Yep.
There's a group called Cancel the Contract, and they want to get rid of the sheriff's department in Lancaster and Palmdale. They want to get rid of them in the school district. They're anti-law enforcement. So the sheriff thought, well, let me cozy up to them and to the Black Lives Matter activists up there, and I'll look like the hero because I'm going to get this rogue white deputy who viciously threw down this black female to the ground. That's how he sold it. That's how he sold to the feds. And here's the sad thing. He does a press conference telling everybody that he took this to the federal monitors. He took it to everybody, and probably the local, street vendor, he took it to them too. Anybody who would listen, he wanted to sell this. And then when Trevor got convicted, then he put out an email that went out countywide saying it wasn't me. I mean, just think of that song, It Wasn't Me. That's pretty much the musical soundtrack of that email. It was like, wait a minute, you just said you shopped it everywhere in the world, and now you're saying it wasn't you? Yes, it was him. In fact, we have information that ICIB was instructed to deliver a thumb drive with the information to the and then the FBI. This is still under the Biden administration, FBI. They wanted to show that they're against these rogue, racist cops, and look at us. So they went this prosecution that's unheard of. This level of force to have a federal prosecution, especially when your local DA, who was Gascon at the time, he wouldn't touch it. And if there's someone who wants to burn a cop, that'd be Gascon.
And it's such an excellent point because, I mean, that is the irony here. Even George Gascon, who is a lunatic, play on words on Sheriff Luna, but he is a lunatic and he hates cops. Ironically, he was a cop, but he hates cops. If this guy declined to prosecute this sheriff, I mean, the threshold, it's so low here. There's such nothing here. I can't imagine how rogue the federal government was at this time to prosecute this at a federal level. It's absolutely astonishing to me.
We were in court. There was a 3-day trial. We went there the first day and the third day. And just to hear the prosecution, their side of the courtroom was filled with all these 20-something wonders. They were all Biden's DOJ. You could just see the difference in ideology from that crowd. And the language he used, he declared pepper spray as a dangerous weapon. And oh my God, that she was somehow harmed for life because of that. And of course, we pepper spray every single recruit in the academy so they know what the effects of pepper spray are.
Including, I mean, when I went through, I got it. I'm sure you did when you went through.
Actually, I went through before pepper spray existed.
I got tear gassed. That's what I got.
Yeah, I got tear gassed. Yeah, that I got.
That's exactly right. So I got tear gas, and like an idiot, they say, hey, go ahead and breathe, breathe normally. And like an idiot, I did, and I was knocked out for a full day. But go ahead.
So the prosecution tried to sell the idea that he grabbed the phone because he was angry that she was recording him. And of course, he's recording it himself. So that's a dumb idea.
Right.
And then they tried to somehow sell the idea that there was malicious intent. And it was willful and deliberate. And I guarantee you, when Trevor Kirk woke up that morning, he said, oh, I'm going to do something to get to federal prison. Not at all. You cannot form intent in a split second like that. There's no way impossible. He reacted based on his training, consistent with policy. He attempted to detain someone who was resisting being detained. and he used the minimal amount of force. Force is never pretty. That's a given. And you can Monday morning quarterback coulda, woulda, shoulda, done this or that, which is fine. That's an argument can be made about training and tactics. It's not a criminal argument.
Right.
It never was a criminal argument. They made it that. And with that now, they've jeopardized law enforcement throughout the nation because now this becomes a new standard. So deputies have decided, hey, let's just turn in our pepper spray since it's a dangerous weapon. We don't want to get prosecuted federally. And now you've seen those photos of the boxes full of pepper spray and a little note.
Well, yeah, and we're going to link to both articles we're going to discuss today. But I was looking at that with the milk carton there, milk crate, and that information taped on there about just turning your pepper spray. Now, you made a good point about this was under the previous administration federally, and I'm certainly hoping, even though they've opened this door now, they set a precedent for level 1 use of force. I'm hoping we'll see this tide not continue under the current administration. But what can we say? Or hope it doesn't revert in a future administration. Hope it doesn't go back to this. So we shall see what happens. You know what we have right here, Anthony, if you can pull up the video. There's a little bit here I just want to talk about. And go ahead and hit play, Anthony.
An investigation into the case. Video here showing the deputy throwing the suspect to the ground and pepper spraying her. Eyewitness News reporter Leo Stallworth has more from Lancaster. Leo.
Now, Mark, that woman speaking out with her attorney by her side this morning just outside of Winco, she had a lot to say. Here's more. We have shown you the controversial body cam and cell phone video of an LA County Sheriff Deputy.
Anthony, stop it for a second. Because I watched this whole video earlier, Sheriff, and I know this is a little bit off topic. We talk about court of public opinion. Even the reporting here, you throw this person to the ground. It's as if the deputy was walking in to buy a soda and saw this woman there. Oh, I think I'll just throw her to the ground. Like you so well laid out at the beginning of the show today, that these deputies received a call of robbery suspects. They got a description. They identified the one, immediately, the male, subsequently identified her, and then she's resisting because she's not complying with lawful orders. It's 148 in California, PC. She's delaying, obstructing, interfering with the officer. She's not complying with a legal, lawful order.
Oh, and by the way, Mark, notice where they played the start of the video. That ABC conveniently spliced and cut off the very beginning of the encounter. And on his body-worn camera, you can see when he reaches out, she slaps away his hand, and she doesn't want to be detained, and she says you can't do it. They left that part out because it didn't fit their narrative.
Which is disgusting. And when you think about that, and you think about the relevance, and of course the jury, and this federal jury must have seen all that, and somehow they come away with a conviction. Anthony, keep playing.
Slamming a female robbery suspect to the ground outside of Winco grocery store in Lancaster early this month. The U.S. Department of Justice launching an investigation. L.A. County Sheriff Robert Luna saying the video is disturbing. Today, attorney Carrie Harper, representing the woman involved with the altercation with deputies, holding a news conference outside of Winco.
This is amazing.
We're here yet again.
So we won't even listen to her, but this person's also lunatic, and they actually show the suspect here in a minute. And, she's claiming that this deputy is trying to kill her. I mean, these things are just amazing. But the point of all this is, and Anthony, I see a still shot there when these two suspects are in the Winco committing crimes. But the whole point of this is the public opinion issue and how the media disseminates this information to their liking. And it really is sad. Sheriff, if I'm not mistaken, and we're done with the video, Anthony, you can go and take it down. If I'm not mistaken, the current Sheriff Luna, he actually presented this to the feds like on the last possible day of the statute of limitations. Is that right to my recollection?
You're actually mixing that with the other case.
That's right. That's when we stopped with the female.
I know what you're talking about.
The female with the baby. That's right. That's another. And we actually talked about that a long time ago on the show. But they're also disgusting. And it shows you what kind of person is running the sheriff's department right now.
Yeah, he's willing to throw his employees under the bus for his own political gain.
That's right. And by the way, if you're listening, I'm trying to do this for time's sake. I know the sheriff is under a time frame, and I want to get as much in as I can. So take a look at the article that we linked here about what we're talking about, and you can see about this other incident where the sheriff goes to the feds, like I think with a matter of minutes to go before the statutes run out. But you talk about throwing people under the bus, 100% right. By the way, this is the guy, the current sheriff, whose ass you saved during how old am I? The George Floyd riots in 2020, when he wouldn't even show up with his own troops out in Long Beach. And you sent, I think, 50 deputies you sent into Long Beach, right, during the Summer of Love, George Floyd. And you. There's a picture of you out there in your TAC gear, out there with the Beast, whatever you guys call it, with one of the SWAT vehicles. You're out there in Long Beach because this guy, and I'm just trying to set the stage for how inept this person is and what a political animal he is. But you have Long Beach, and I was working, I was a chief for Southern Division, CHP, Los Angeles County. We actually sent a few officers down there to the, what's it called? Anyway, the nice area down there. We sent officers down there to Long Beach. You sent deputies in there to Long Beach. And where was he? We call it UTL, unable to locate. There you are. There's a picture right there. There's a sheriff at the time with his troops in an incorporated city who has their own law enforcement agency, who wasn't doing what they needed to do. Because, and the reason I'm saying this is because the current sheriff at the time was the chief of Long Beach Police Department. It shows you the lack of leadership we're dealing with in LA County right now.
Now, I remember when we showed up at the parking lot just off I can't remember what freeway it was, to meet with Long Beach officers, and there was a sergeant there, and they had about, I think, 20 of Long Beach and a sergeant. And I thought, where's your chief? Mm-hmm. And I remember, I'll never forget, he said, well, I'm not sure, but we got an email from him. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. These poor people. So we went ahead and took care of business. We went to Pine and 7th, where the CVS was being looted, and we chased looters down alleys. My security team was, oh my God, not you, you're too old, whatever. But it was fun. It was, a little recalling my youth,
Yeah, doing real cop work. And by the way, the Pike, that's what I was trying to remember. The Pike is the area there. They have a lot, Restaurant Row and hotels and things like this. And that's where my guys ended up. A lot of them down there at the Pike, trying to do some, law enforcement down there in View Patrol and trying to keep the city from burning down. But you were out there.
We learned.
Go ahead.
We learned that he was in a fire station's bunker, and he sent his friend on a helicopter to oversee what was happening. I guess he had some civilian friend, and he was relying on this friend to tell him what was going on in his city. So he picked up the nickname Bunker Bob from that point forward.
The funny thing is maybe funny is not the right word, but the truth is, Sheriff, people like yourself and me, in other words, none of us want to see the kind of devastation we saw in 2020 in that summer, the protests, the burning, the people were killed. But when those things do happen, that's the calling that we feel that we have to go out there and do our best to resolve those issues and keep the peace and keep people safe and arrest the bad guys. That's what we signed up for. And the idea that a chief of police, just doesn't show up. But again, I know you were out there on the skirmish lines. I was in the skirmish lines. Mike Moore, LAPD, to his credit, he was out there on the skirmish lines. We were together, a bunch of them. It's amazing. But this all goes into the kind of the big picture about lack of leadership and what you're willing to do as a so-called leader on paper and rank as Long Beach chief or the county sheriff when it comes to either ignoring your rank and file, not showing support, or even worse, we're talking about throwing people under the bus and potentially sending them to federal prison in exchange for political favoritism. And that's certainly what looks like is going on right now. So I want to move on to the second part here. This goes back again to leadership and ineptness. Also, we're linking this article to the page as well. And this has to do with the CAD system, the computer-aided dispatch. Now, let me set the stage here. We've all dealt with CAD for as long as we were in law enforcement. And even the best system, it's going to have a glitch here and there. You know, you get the attention all units, cat is down, cat is down. These things happen from time to time where you're down for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever, and you've got to go to the Rolodex, the dispatchers, things like this. These things happen just like your TV goes out, you know, if it's internet based at home every once in a while. But what we've seen with the sheriff's department is something that you and others, but well, you actually begged to address when you were the sheriff. And we know this went back to 2003. Tell us what happened recently with the CAD system. I saw this article early last month and what you tried to do to resolve it and what the results were.
Well, the CAD system is ancient by any standard. When you're talking a technology system that's infrastructure is 38 years old, it's beyond ancient. I mean, we're talking, think archaeology. That would be the best way to describe this thing. And what they've been doing for 38 years is, as it was outdated, they find a patchwork way around it to prop it up and keep it going. But the system is based on the old 64-bit punch card things that you keep in a shoebox. That is literally the foundation of the sheriff's CAD system. So by 2003, that was when the system reached its max capacity beyond anything possible. But they found some in-house genius that said, hey, we can keep it alive for a little bit longer, but it's still on its deathbed. And that deathbed came in 2025 at the stroke of midnight when they tried to log on the early morning units, and they couldn't. And it turns out that it was in a terminal loop you can't get out of because it would not recognize the year 2025. They probably, when they programmed it way back then, they thought no one could be stupid enough to keep the system in 2025. Let's put that in there. And that's what you got. So the system went dead. They revived it for a few days. It went dead again. And just, I think the day before yesterday, it crashed again, the whole system all over again. But the sad thing is that not just me, Baca, Scott, McDonald, myself, we all have been saying the entire system has to be scrapped and rebuilt from scratch with modern computer-aided dispatch system, a new CAD system. The cost is roughly $30 million. The time frame from let's do it to get it up and running is 12 to 18 months.
Jeez.
When I left office, not only did I send that letter to the supervisor that you've seen, but on my parting meeting with Loon, I told him this has to be your number one priority. It's going to leave you dead in the water. You must prioritize it. He did nothing for 6 months, for starters. And then he put a cheesy RFP, request for a proposal. And then he did nothing with the RFP because, okay, that puts you in the summer of 2023. So what happened from 2023, the summer, till January of 2025? Oh, well, we're, no. By that point, you already have a vendor identified. You have an implementation plan. You have some facts to, okay, we got a plan. There was no plan whatsoever. They were continuing with let's roll the dice and see what happens. And they got caught.
Well, they sure did. And of course, and the reason I hesitated about previous sheriffs, I wasn't positive that they'd actually been proactive about asking to get this fixed. And I'm glad you clarified that a number, is it Bach and McDonald, that they had done this, they'd asked. Let me read a little bit, just briefly, from a letter that you wrote to the County Board of Supervisors. Just a little bit here. The department's mission critical CAD system, again, that's computer aided dispatching, was implemented in the late 1980s, approximately 33 years ago. And it's, now, by the way, this is written, like you said, you wrote this letter in September of 2022, when you were about to leave office, which speaks highly of you, because in other words, you're saying, hey, okay, I'm leaving right now, but I'm begging you to do something for these men and women who are out here on patrol and actually need to be safe and have the information that they need. And it's operating on hardware, software platforms which are no longer supported by manufacturers. This system is in use by the department, which is one of the largest law enforcement agencies in the nation, serving a 4,000 plus square mile policing jurisdiction. Due to the antiquated CAD system and the associated technical and capability limitations, the department has been unable to update, modify the system to fully comply with state legal mandates related to data collection and documentation. And it goes on. But you could not have been more clear about this. Now, the thing is, Sheriff, this is, as much as anything, a problem related to the County Board of Supervisors. It's not the Sheriff's Department so much, at least in this case. They're asking to get this fixed. These people do not either understand or appreciate the severity and the seriousness of the situation. I mean, this could literally be life-threatening. When you stop somebody and that plate would normally come back, a Highway Patrol would call it 1036 franc, which is felony, and you don't know that you have a bad guy in that car because the CAT system's down, you are putting that officer at risk. And the idea that the County Board of Supervisors, with all the garbage, all of the junk that they throw money away on, they throw money at, that they can't take a measly $30 million, because compared to the budget of Los Angeles County, it is measly $30 million, and address this issue is absolutely shameful and despicable.
I agree 100%. Look at just the jail closure implementation team. They poured $40 million in a team that cannot do what its name implies, close Men's Central Jail. They know they can't without a replacement, but there goes $40 million. They create the Justice Care and Opportunities Department. They create the Department of Youth Development. Like you said, they're throwing money left and right like a drunk sailor on shore leave, but they can't find $30 million to create a system from scratch that serves the needs of the department in 2025. And you're right, that information technology, we can't even comply with state mandates about racial profiling, for example.
Right.
We had to create a whole new system called SACRS just to be able to comply with that, because our CAD system couldn't support the state requirements. So now you have deputies being forced to do data entry on two systems separately to clear every call. So now you can imagine how much you're tying up the hands of deputies. We're not doing police work anymore. They're doing clerical work. And all of this because the board just refuses, and this is ideological.
Yes.
The board wants to hamstring and cripple law enforcement's ability to actually do their job.
And they may end up getting somebody killed, literally. Not to mention the reduced service that the Sheriff's Department is experiencing and will continue to experience. In other words, serving the public. If you don't have this information at your fingertips, if your communications are not working properly, it's going to result in a lack of service. There's no way around it. And if you want to go back to the days of Adam 12 and everything's on a Rolodex, that's what we're dealing with right now. By the way, speaking about the racial profiling stuff, and I remember when the Highway Patrol was converting over to all this for the state mandate. I mean, what is this now? I don't even know. 10, 12 years ago. I'm trying to remember how long ago it was. But even with our system, and again, we're cops, so I always complained about the CAD. You're always going to complain. You're never satisfied. That's not working. But even with one that was working relatively well, it was very difficult to transition over or to update it, to capture all this information. So I can't imagine how bad it is. Like you said, these deputies are entering information on two different systems now. You got to create a separate system for the racial profiling mandate. And you're right. If people think that's a good idea, that law enforcement is taking notes and doing clerical duties instead of going out and doing police work, this is the fault of the County Board of Supervisors. I'll tell you right now, I don't know, and even the ones, I know a couple of them very well. And at least one of them I used to like. I have lost all respect for that gaggle of clowns, Sheriff. I have lost all respect. And I'll tell you right now, I know I'm on a tirade right now.
Kind, by the way.
I'm sorry?
You're being too kind, by the way.
Well, maybe I am. But in other words, as I saw you over the years start dealing with these people, I sat back and, like a lot of people, I didn't know you before you came into office. And I started watching. I said, you know what? This guy's taking these people on and they don't like him. I said, they don't like him. He's probably doing something right. And this is, it's easy to see. It's easy to see. It's one reason that I developed such respect for you over the years. So with that, I'm going to give you the kind of the closing thoughts here on either or both of these topics we talked about today. By the way, before I do that, there's one possible light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the Trevor Kirk, the deputy who was convicted on federal charges here, because it was federal. He has a possibility of a pardon from the president now. So
that is one.
So I'm hoping that actually is reality, because you talk about total BS that this man is looking at up to 10 years in federal prison. And by the way, whatever he gets sentenced to, there's no parole in the federal system. So if you get sentenced to 4 years in prison, you're going to prison for 4 years. I mean, the idea that this guy's just doing his job, and he takes someone to the ground who's resisting arrest, and he ends up in federal prison, it's disgusting. I hope someone brings this to the president's attention. He gets pardoned right away. So with that said, I'll give you the last word.
Well, I appreciate that, Mark, and we're trying to raise hell every which way we can and get our hands on the Trump administration and Bondi, the new incoming AG, and whenever Patel gets confirmed for the FBI. There's a lot of work here in California. We're more than happy to show where all the dead bodies are buried. In fact, yes, we will do that. And I want to say one thing here. It mentions earlier, I don't know if you've seen it. My book is out. Yes.
Oh, cool. Where do we find it?
It's called Sheriff, Holding the Thin Blue Line in a Deep Blue State.
Put it over. Hang on. Put it like right under your chin, or there you go, right over your face. A little bit to what is that? To the there you go. Perfect. So it's Sheriff. Right. I can't see the fine print. Say it again.
Holding the Thin Blue Line in a Deep Blue State.
And we can find it everywhere, Amazon, or where do we look for it?
It's on Amazon, yes, and you can also get it at SheriffVillanueva33.com. It's got my life story and all of my fights with the Board of Supervisors and the lawfare and everything. It's a Kiss All, Tell All books. Get your copy, and it's an interesting read, and people that have read it they understand the big picture.
Well, I'm going to order mine as soon as we get off the show here today. Sheriff Villanueva, as usual, I'm so appreciative of your time. I'm so glad you were able to be on today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. With that said, stay safe out there in Southern California. Take care of yourself, your family. And by the way, if there's any way I can be a part of the effort to get Deputy Kirk some relief here, any part of this that I can help with, if any you can think of, let me know. I would love to help however I can.
Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. Get better. We need you up and running. All right.
Copy that. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right. You too.